What's up everybody, welcome to our very first tutorial video, and I'm so excited to be sharing what I know with you all guys, and I do hope that you also are excited as much as I am. I know it's quite a big move. I never really thought I'll find myself on YouTube sharing coding tutorials. Now that's a big step, but yep, enough with that. So this is the very first tutorial video, right? So we're gonna be talking about the introduction to Python. We won't do much of the deep concepts, but I will introduce you to the main or the fundamental concepts, which forms part of a bigger package which we'll learn as we go through these tutorials. Well, the first question is, who is me? Well, I so wish I could share my screen, but unfortunately my camera decided to just, disappoint me. But I am a second year student at MurexTheCoder, about to go to his first internship with one of our corporate partners here at MurexTheCoder. I will be sharing much on my journey later on, but for now I just want to get this tutorial started, since it's not that easy to get time due to the projects we get to have, yep, I will be sharing all that later on. Hopefully I'll also be able to get some of my peers to share their story as to how this journey within code has been, since it's not quite an easy journey, but as long as you have determination, you get to make it through till the very end. So some of the tips that I would like to give you before you start is very much important that you take this seriously, especially if you are taking much of your time to learn this, and to also maybe you're buying details, to be able to watch these tutorials. Maybe a friend referred to you about a guy that is about to do some tutoring on the coding languages that they might have wanted to start. So the first things first, right? You have to be consistent. So once you start learning, don't stop, because the moment you stop, everything that you've learned, the time, the effort to learn these concepts, all those concepts will be gone by the time you decide to come back, and it might be too late at that time, because now you're gonna have to fight a fight where you are trying to relearn what you learned before. And sometimes it gets boring to repeat something again that you used to know, and now you're like a stranger. So be consistent. I'd say have a bit of a schedule where you decide that, okay, cool, I'm just gonna learn or code for about this much hours on a daily basis, and then just keep it up like that without taking a break. I once did that. I think we got a break December. Yeah, we got a break December. Yep, smart me decided to move away from Python, but I didn't actually took a break from coding. I just took a break from Python and I started learning Java, which did help me a lot. It was a good move, but my Python was gone. I had to go back to the drawing box and started the whole journey again, which was a good thing though, because I was so determined. Though the fight wasn't that easy, but due to the love and the passion I have for coding, I was able to go back to the drawing board and make it happen. Um, Second thing is, you must believe in yourself. Coding is not easy. I will tell you right off before we even start. It takes time, it takes effort, and you will see as you go through the whole journey that it gets frustrating at some point, and sometimes you might think that maybe I'm just dumb, those type of things. But while I will urge you, what I will urge you to do is to believe in yourself, because the moment you believe in yourself, you block all the self-doubt, you block all the negativity. I'm always known as the guy who's Mr. Optimistic and energetic. Well, that is because I choose to believe in myself most of the time. But then apart from that, I see myself as the greatest. Yes, you might be faced with people that are way greater than you, but believe in yourself and know that you are the greatest. Cool. Let's talk about the third is trusting the process. So this is a journey that it takes guts to walk. So you will experience a lot of failure, and you will be backed at a corner, and you will just get to a point where like, nope, I thought this was meant for me, but nope, this is not for me. Trust me, it's a long process. Trust the process, and the process will work for you, as they say. Last but not least, do ask questions. So when you learn, right, it's not just about learning, it's also about you asking questions, like, why am I doing this? Like, you have, that those type of conversation with your code. I know it's weird, but trust me, it's necessary if you want to truly figure things out, and if you truly want to master a language. Ask questions. Don't just learn without asking questions. Ask questions. Why am I learning this? Where am I gonna apply this at? Those type of questions. Ask questions. Apart from that, throughout the video, if there's something that you didn't quite catch or you need any assistance, I know that we have different people, and this is the very first time me having a huge community with different people. You can say that I'm not yet familiar with my audiences. So you might be someone who's not computer literate. The literate or literacy, you're not familiar with computers. Let me just use that word than the one which I'm not so sure of. You are not familiar with computers, and you don't know how to go about maybe the installation part, because I'm not going to really demonstrate the installation, but I will show you where to get the installer, right? If you are there, just leave a comment in the comment section, and I will get back to you. Or else just email me. I will leave my email under the comment section. Yep, but also do be patient, because yeah, it's not that easy to really get time. I'm even wondering as to how I managed to get the time to do this as we speak, but because I made it known that I want to assist people who really want to learn, and reach out to those that are from disadvantaged backgrounds, but they also want to learn. I will definitely do create time for all these tutorials and keep them consistent on a weekly basis. And I'm still gonna add other tutorials for other languages which I have to tutor, so it's gonna be a lot and a long journey. But one thing I know is that there is nothing that beats a man with the good time management. A person who owns his time or their time, they are the most dangerous people alive, because they're able to do whatever they want, whenever they want, because they own their time, right? But yeah, enough with that. Let's go through what we'll be discussing in this tutorial. So as I mentioned, we will talk about the where you get the Python installer, right? And then I'll also discuss about the version that we're going to be using for our tutorial, since we have two different versions of Python. Then we will cover the two modes of Python, which one of it is going to be applied during this tutorial. The other one I will cover during the next tutorial, because it's a bit more complex than this one. Though some people might find this mode that we're going to use in this tutorial way difficult or more complex than the other one. It's for others it's the other way around, for others the other way around. For me, well, I mastered both, and I can tell you right now that they both play a major role in terms of your success in learning Python and being able to apply it on more advanced projects. Yeah, I witnessed that when I was learning. We did command line app within code, where we had to make use of a Google API. The concepts were the same, so the only thing we had to learn was just the API, the Google API, which I successfully did. And yeah, I'm proud of the team that I was in as well, because we made it happen and we learned. Yep. Um, One other thing that we're going to talk about is we're just going to talk about variables, right? So this is the beginning of the syntax, and this is the fundamental concept. It's one of the fundamental concepts which you have to understand before you even get any further, because you will be seeing variables all over your code, everywhere. Now, when you talk about variables, you cannot miss the data types, because it leads to data types. Whether we like it or not, it's going to lead us to a data type, because you create a variable and assign a value. That value is of a different data type, so you have to talk about data types. But then we're not going to cover all data types. We're going to cover just few data types, and then as we move further, we'll get introduced to other data types as well. What we're going to talk about next is going to be the input and output functions, not really known as our input and output function. Okay, the input function is the input function, output is it has a different function name, as we'll see. So the reason why I'm just using input and output is just to make it clear in terms of the headline that we're talking about the input, then the output. Then that way it makes it easy for one to follow. Then last but not least, all this is one of my favorite, or this is my favorite part, seeing it all in action. So once we master all these variables and all the rules, all the necessary things we need to learn, we're gonna apply that knowledge via coding, right? It's never really a good idea to just learn theory, no theory, and not know how to apply the theory, and also explore, especially the exploring part. I'm quite an explorer myself when it comes to technology. As you will see, also with the Python version that I'm using, is not the official release, it's one of the pre-releases. But yeah, I decided to just go on with it either way. But I'm running two Python versions, obviously. So I have the latest version and the pre-release one, but then I made the pre-released default so that I can explore the new features that the developers behind Python are doing, because they keep on improving and improving and improving. Yep, if you are one of the adventurers, feel free to adventure and feel free to just explore. You see, it's so nice to really explore, especially in the world of tech, because you get to learn through exploring, and then you get to figure out or discover tech which you never knew existed. So it's all about you always eager to learn, and know that on a daily basis it's an opportunity to learn. Let's head over to discuss the Python version that we have. So Python has two different versions. We have Python 2, right? This is an older version, though it's still being used in some of the companies. I'm not so sure about how popular it is compared to the Python 3 version, because it seems as if we are moving from 2 to Python 3. So Python 2 was developed to the latest version, if I believe, was Python 2.18, I think, somewhere there. I'm not so sure. But we'll see when we get to the website. The one that I'm so sure of is Python 3, which is the one that I'm using. So I know that they're currently working on Python 3.11. But the latest stable release is Python 3.10. Yes. So this is gonna be our language for these tutorials. We're gonna be learning using Python 3. So before we get any further, let's head over to the download website, and I show you where to get the installers. Some of you guys might know the installers already, or you might have Python in your PC already. Just please bear with me, as we are also covering other guys as well, right? Cool. So we're gonna go to this website is python.org. This is going to be one of the popular websites you get to, but for now let's not really talk much about the website, but then just a bit of a brief. You will see that that's where you will learn about you get to know the Python, more about Python, right? And then this is the releases. You have all releases, right? This is where we're coming, and then this is where you're gonna get the documentation, right? The official documentation of Python, books and essays. And then we have the community success stories. If you're interested, you can come, and especially the software development, you can just come and just explore, go to news, and then events. Oh yes, there's events, there's user group events. Just check it out, explore. So before I get to the downloads part, right, I also want to cover for people that are actually who might have stumbled upon this video while they were just browsing through YouTube and they caught interest, right? If you're interested and you're willing to learn, though you might be asking a question as to how am I going to learn without the proper tools, don't worry about the tools, because Python is open source, and there are tools online which you can use instead of really installing. You can just use online tools. For instance, if you're unable to install Python, you can just use the online tools to learn, because the purpose is for you to learn the language. Because what matters is what you know, and not really what you have in your PC. You can have thousands of books and not really know any of those books, right? Unless if you read them and they are in your brain and all that information is there. So in this case, you will see this little block, and then you will see, say, if I put my cursor there, it's launch interactive shell. This is what we're going to be using for this tutorial. So to launch that shell, you're just going to launch your shell, and then it's going to load. Give it a second or two. It does take its time to really set up. And there we go. It's a Python 3.9 interpreter, and as you see, this is version 3.9.5. Don't worry much about the versions as long as you're on Python 3, and let's just say 3.7 onwards. I don't remember, there's a version where there's a feature that is no longer valid or legal in latest versions. But just to be safe, I'd say 3.7 onwards, you're fine. So this is using Python 3.9.5. I will be using Python 3.11.0b3. What else? Don't try to go to that version unless if you know your way around computers and playing around with this Python, maybe playing around, changing between the default, all that. Then you can go ahead. But then if you're new, don't try something you don't know. Rather take time to learn about it, and then once you get to understand how the whole thing, how everything works, and the risks associated, especially the risks associated with playing around with some of the things, especially the Linux users, you might be aware that there are some things, or there are some things which you just can't edit unless if you are truly 100% sure of what you're doing. With that said, I will also tell you what I'm using. I'm using Pop! OS version 22.04. I recently installed it, so it's quite new. So I'm still exploring what they added, what changed. Though I was from Ubuntu, I was using Ubuntu version 20.04. Cool. But enough of that. So you can launch your shell like this, or if you want, you can just use this command. It's python.org, and then it's a slash, and then you just type shell. So when it goes to the website, it will automatically launch the shell. So as you see, wait a bit for it to start, and then it automatically launch a shell, right? So you can just go ahead and just use this link to open the shell, or you can just go to python.org, and then you will see a block, that little block, and then you launch your interpreter. So let's head over to the Python tab, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to go to all releases, right? This is where you're going to see all the Python versions, right? So if you scroll down, you will see a lot of things. So don't mind about this. I don't know if I get to do Linux tutorials, I'll be covering that. Maybe GitLab as well, I'll be able to cover that. But for now, what I want you to do is to just go to the top. So you see you have all the versions, right? But what I want you to do is to select the operating system that you're using. So if you're on Linux use or Unix, you select that. macOS is that. If it's other, then you go for other. If it's Windows, you go for that. Allow me to just choose Windows, which I believe most of the people might be using. Then it will take us to the site to where we have all the Python releases for Windows, right? As you see, these are the stable releases, and they ended at Python 3.10.5 around the 6th of June this month. And then we have a pre-release, which is Python 3.11.0b3, which is was released on the 1st of June this month. So you can see that these guys have been busy, and people keep asking me as to whether is it possible for me to share how I do this thing of not sleeping. I don't really have a proper or a direct answer to that, because it's all about the kind of a person that you are. Myself, I'm just that guy that works hard, so I barely sleep. Not that I don't want to sleep, but I find myself not having any sleep, but only the passion and the strength to work. So I just decide to work. And it's funny how I never really get to be sleepy during the day, except if I didn't sleep completely. That's when it gets to be the case where I will be slumbering throughout the day, which is not a good thing, because you do need to have a sleep. So mostly it's 2 hours for me. I'd say that's more than enough. 2 hours. As we mentioned, so we have two Python versions, right? So this one, they developed it up until 2.7.18. Did I say 2.18? I said 2.18, so it's 2.7.18. And then Python 3, this is the latest stable release, 3.10.11. As I mentioned, I am just exploring with this beta version that they have, which I don't know when they're going to be done developing it completely, but I will just go along and just explore it and see what they're doing. So also something to notice, right? So some of you guys might be using Windows, which is Windows 7 or previous Windows. For that one, just scroll down until you get to a part where you can use Windows, right? So this can be used on Windows XP or earlier, right? So you can just use this for Python, but there's no files for this one. So they only have so we have to scroll down, and there goes my theory for Python 3.7. But I wonder if it's there. Okay, let me just give you an advice, because I see that we'll be scrolling down. If you find it, you can just use it. For instance, I think this should be it, 3.8 RC1, but it's not as stable. Is it stable? I don't know if it's already stable, because normally the C, like the Python versions which are named with letters, are not really stable, but it's under development. I'm sure this is the stable version. Yep. So just go to this one. So it cannot be used on Windows XP or earlier, right? So if you're Windows 7, you just go for that. If you're on Windows XP or the internet cafe that you're at is using Windows XP, I'll highly recommend that you use online tools. Besides, I did mention that you use online tools, because you don't want to be installing Python on a computer that you don't own, because you might install it, then when you come back again, you have to install again and again. So it's a process. It's better to just use the online tools that you have to learn, because you do have the tools and they work perfectly fine without any problem, and they are the same. They even the user interface is the same, so you don't have to worry much, and you will be able to follow through. So don't worry much about that. But then if you are that eager to get the version, you can just scroll down. I really can't say it here, but I didn't want to focus more on the installation, but just to get the file, right? So all you gotta do is just know which bits the bit of your system. So if it's 32-bit, then you're gonna go for 32-bit installer. Then if it's 64-bit, you go for the 64-bit. If you're in different Mac operating system, you just go for a different operating system. If you're on Linux, you can search how to install Python via terminal. I think I will leave a link to one of the good sites which you can just follow through the instructions. And again, fair warnings, if you're not sure of what you're doing, please don't just copy and paste the links in the commands in your terminal. You will find yourself doing something that will create huge problems for you and your computer, and you will spend months thinking that your computer is dead, though it's not really dead, but you affected one of the files which are very crucial to your system. So rather do that which you show off and not something that you're not sure of. Cool. Since we're done, let's just close these tabs, and then we go back to our presentation. Cool. So now we discuss all about this, the version Python 3 and the version that we'll be using. Let's head over to discuss about the two modes of Python, right? Remember, we haven't started any syntax yet. So syntax will be discussed, I think, after this slide, if I remember correctly. Cool. So what we're gonna do is discuss the two modes of Python, right? So we have script mode and we have the interactive mode. So with the script mode, that's where you get to learn about the IDEs. That's where a lot of arguments get to rise, that this IDE is better than this IDE. It's all those discussions, right? Myself, I'm more of a terminal guy. So an IDE, I only use it when I'm working on a large project. But then if it's just me learning, I always use a text editor, and not just an ordinary text editor, but Vim. It works better for me and it does wonders. And at first I wasn't really comfortable working on Vim because it's tough. The first thing was not being able to escape Vim. So once you enter Vim, I wasn't able to escape. So I used to just close my whole terminal until I learned about Vim, that so there are two modes in Vim. So you can go to a read-only mode or an editor mode, right? So then you can those are the modes at the beginning. But I did pick up about that when I was just learning about it, and then I ended up closing it and all the commands you run. So it's command based. So if you are good with terminal, I'll advise you to try it out, but then we'll discuss more about this on the next tutorials, not this one. And then we go to the interactive mode, right? So interactive mode, as I've already shown you before, is Python shell. So that's where you're gonna be running your code, and this is what we're gonna be using to complete this tutorial. The good thing about interactive mode, maybe one might be asking why would you want to first go through interactive mode while you know that when you're working on big projects you'll be using script mode, because you want to write a program that can be rerun again and again and again, because the interactive mode, once you exit the shell, it's gone, it's no more. So the interactive mode plays an important role on its own in terms of so for instance, right, so if you just think about the interactive mode, as I'm going to show you, or rather I'm also catering for the people that don't know an interactive mode. So an interactive mode, once you write a programming statement to do something, it will execute it instantly, and then you move to the next statement and the next statement. So you can explore it, as you will see. We're going to explore it in terms of the variable naming, that what happens if you name your variable illegally. So because we're going to discuss the rules that you need to properly name your variables. So we're going to explore all that, and then you will see the importance of the interactive mode, or the importance of knowing the interactive mode. Then the script mode is going to come in the next tutorial, which is going to be fun, because there you're going to be able to fully understand. So it takes a keyword is the one that is going to be highlighted, or its text is going to be unique from other text or the normal text. We'll get to see that in the next tutorials, which I just can't wait. Hopefully it's gonna be by Monday. Actually, every Monday I will be posting the Python tutorials, so stay tuned for the next tutorial. Is gonna be on Monday. So that gives you time to actually plan your things as well, in a way that you know that on a Monday there's a new content that is gonna be added. So you just keep learning, right? You keep learning, and then once the tutorial comes, you go and you watch, and then from there you'll be learning. Oh, I studied this, but I didn't get to understand this and this. It makes it easy for you, and you as a person, you get to grow. Again, it's all about determination and your will to learn. Cool. So let's head over to the variables finally. So variables are the containers for storing values. So without variables, well, we can't really do much on any coding language, because you need to store data somewhere, right? So you must understand the fundamentals of how you store data, and what kind of data are you storing, where can I get this data, right? So you use variables. As I mentioned, they are just containers for storing values, right? But then these values come in different data type, which is why I said that there are different types of data, right? But this is going to lead us to that topic, which we'll discuss in the next slide. This time around, I just want to focus more on the naming rules, which is very much important, and we will explore these during the application session, which is it's gonna be the most fun and enjoyable one, where you get to see the code in action. I know for now it's just theory, it's just a little bit of theory, not too much theory. Keep it simple so that you get to understand. I will also share the links to sites where you can actually learn more of these concepts in detail, so that you get to understand. So it's not just about you coding what you don't understand and get happy that you got to the final solution. No, it's about you knowing what you're doing. Okay, I have this statement in my code. What am I trying to do with this statement? What drove me to actually arrive to writing that statement? We will have that in our application session. Cool. So what we want to do is with naming of a variable, right? You can initialize your naming variable. You can start naming your variable using any letter from A to Z. Literally any letter from A to Z. Then you can also start with an underscore. So these two rules, just if simplified, it's saying that whenever you're naming your variable, you can either choose the first character to be any alphabet from A to Z. It doesn't matter whether it's a capital letter or a small letter, or you can start with an underscore. That makes sense, right? So when you name your variable, you can use any letter from A to Z or an underscore as the starting point of your variable. What comes next? Well, we're going to learn about what else can be included in a variable name, starting with the third point, which is it can contain numbers. So your variable can contain numbers, but it cannot start with a number. That's one thing that I want to emphasize. So the first 2 points, they are telling you the character which can be used as a starting point of naming your variable. The third point is just saying that in your variable you can include numbers. That's what it's saying. The fourth one, you cannot include white spaces in your variable name, right? White spaces is just a space between two words. Normally when you write paragraphs, it says you separate words with the space, right? That's what it's referring to, a white space. It's an empty space. And then also bear in mind that they are case sensitive. So if you create a variable, say you just call it name, and then all characters are small letters, and then you have another variable name with a capital letter N, those two are not the same. Yes, they mean one and the same thing. It's a name, right? But they are not the same when it comes to Python. So if you assign a value to a name and you assign a value to another variable name with a capital letter and you print name, or you display that information, the information that will be displayed is the one that was assigned to that. If you only assign name and you don't define the second one with the capital letter and you just try to print name using the capital letter one, you will get an error. We will get to that point and we'll demonstrate that during the application part. Last but not least, you cannot use keywords to name your variables. As you will learn through, we're going to be introducing some of the functions which help us do a certain action. But we'll learn more about the keywords when we get to the IDE, because it gets easy to know that this is an IDE and this is how I distinguish between a normal text in my code and a special word or keyword as they are called, right? But for this case or in this tutorial, you're not going to be okay. There is some keywords. We'll learn more about the keywords at a later stage and we'll discuss and break them down, that this keyword, we have this keyword, so I should not use this in my variable naming, right? That's one of the things that you need to cover. So these are the rules you need for your naming your variable. Now someone might be asking, so we have characters like a exclamation mark, we have a pound, hashtag, a dollar sign, we have a percentage sign. Yes, it's not included name. If you include that, you will get an error. But in other languages, they do include some of the characters, which is why it's very much important to pay attention to the rules that each language carries, right? For this one, in Python, you can't include any other characters except the ones we just discussed. So your variable is composed of characters from A to Z, underscores, and numbers. Keeping in mind that the starting point can only be any character from A to Z or an underscore. I think that summarizes everything. So cool. Now that we've defined a variable, let's talk about the declaration of a variable. How do you declare a variable? Now, let's take a look at the syntax, right? So when you declare a variable, the first thing you want to do is you want to name your variable. So you will have a variable name. And then after that, you want an operator which is going to assign a value to this variable. What else about the operator that we're going to have? We'll cover more of these operators. Or actually, we'll be covering most of these in the next tutorial, where you get to know all the different types of operators, because they lead us to conditions, they lead us to loops, they lead us to other concepts, right? So for this one, we just want to keep it keep it simple and less conceptualized, because it's still first day for others who don't really know coding, and it's a bit of a process and it's a bit of a learning curve to actually grasp all these concepts. But then with practice, you will be able to get comfortable. And as I've said, consistency is everything. If you keep consistent, you will get familiar with all these concepts and it will be easy for you to grasp the new concepts. Cool. So this is known as, most people know it as an equal sign from mathematics, but in programming we call this an assignment operator. What it does is assign a value to a variable. I do hope that that makes sense. Now that value that is being assigned to a variable, it comes in different forms, and we're going to discuss that just now. So if we go to the next slide, we'll see we have data types. So that's where we're going to be talking about the different forms that value comes in. So the first value is a numeric type, so these numbers obviously. So this is divided into two groups, but one thing to mention is that these are not all the data types. Even for the numeric type, it doesn't have two data types. There's a third type, but I'm not going to talk about this type on this tutorial. We'll talk about it in the next tutorials or in the future tutorials as we move further, because this journey only gets harder and harder and harder, and we shouldn't start off with it being hard, because people will find it hard to start. Start it slow, master the small fundamental concepts, and then when you get to a bigger problem, you'll be able to see, oh, this is how you apply this, oh, this is where this gets to be used. That's why I said asking questions is very much important. Not just asking what you don't understand, but also asking why you're doing something when you're coding, right? So what we have is the first category, which is integers. While integers are whole numbers, which can be either positive or negative, right? The second category under the numeric type is the float, which is a decimal number, right? So it's a number with decimals. Those are the two categories we have for numbers when it comes to this tutorial. I won't talk about the third one, but then if you are interested and you want to just go look it up by yourself, there is a third type which is complex. It talks about imaginary and real numbers. That one is very complicated, and that's why I don't want to include it here, because now it takes someone who doesn't really know math to a different environment where they get to ask themselves, what is a complex number? What is an imaginary? What is a real number? That is a complex concept, which is called complex in Python. So we'll talk about this at a later stage. So for now, let's just focus on these two data types. Now, let's talk the second data type that we're going to be discussing or dealing with in this tutorial, which is the binary type. So the binary type has only one type, which is a boolean. It's a boolean, right? Which is it can either be true or false. So a boolean only has two values, either true or false, yes or no, right? Yes being true, no being false. If you are to use numbers to represent it, true is 1 and false is 0, but we'll discuss about it as we get further. Last but not least, and this one does get to extend as well, because there are methods that is associated with it, but I will cover that in the next tutorial. So cool, it's a text type, which is a string, right? So a string is a sequence of characters. By sequence of characters, it just means that it's alphabets which are grouped together to make a meaningful word. I hope that does make sense, or I explained it in a way that makes it simple to understand, because one might be asking themselves, a sequence of characters, what does that mean? It's a good thing to ask questions, and it's a good thing to understand. Cool. So let's discuss one of the functions. So we're going to start with the input function. So this input function is a function that we use to get information from the user. Now, how does the user provide the information to the computer? Now, the user types in the information via the keyboard, right? And that information is sent to the computer. So the input function is going to take that information, or is going to accept that information that is sent via the computer or via the keyboard, and it will store that information to a variable that it's assigned to. Let's go through the syntax of the input function, right? So first things first, you're gonna write a keyword, which is the input. That's the name of the function, right? And then you're gonna provide an opening parenthesis. So notice that there's a bit of a space between my keyword and my opening parenthesis. I just wanted to explain the parts of this function, as it's gonna be clear as we do functions at a later stage. So if you understand, don't worry too much. It's gonna get clear as we move forward. Just as I said, a function. You don't understand the function, just keep that in your dictionary, in your diary, or somewhere where you will be able to have access to as we move to the next tutorial. And then you'll be able to keep track. Oh, now I understand this. I didn't understand this before. Now I understand this. Now I understand this. If there's something that you don't understand, and then you get to ask, we haven't got to this part yet. I don't understand this part. And then that's where you're gonna get help, right? So take it step by step. Don't rush yourself, and do take a deep breath, and don't panic or try to stress yourself. It's complicated, it gets tough, but if you are willing to learn, it is easy to learn. And then what happens is you provide a closing parenthesis, right? That's what happens. So with an input function, you can also provide a value inside the parenthesis, right? And you provide, so what you provide there, it's a prompt, or it's the message that is going to be sent to the user. Say for instance you want to collect their name and age, so the first input is going to be requiring them their name. Maybe you just ask, what is your name? Then they provide their name. You store their name in a variable that is assigned to name variable, and then you ask them their age. What is your age? They provide the name, they provide the age, not the name, and then their age gets stored in a certain variable. Cool. So the thing to notice about this, as I've mentioned, you get the name, you get the variable, right? So if you're getting the age, it's a number, right? If you're getting the name, it's a string, according to what we just discussed from the data type discussion. But by default, an input function returns a string. What does that mean? So that means that even if you put a number, that number is seen as a string. It's not seen as an integer, but a string. We will discuss ways on how to convert your string, which is supposed to be a number, to a number. Cool. So let's just quickly discuss the output function. So the output function, right? This is used for displaying information on the screen, right? So you get input, and then you just wanna display it on the screen. Now you might have noticed what I said previously about prompting the user. Maybe if you want their name, what is your name, right? That is also displaying something, but then that one requires you to put in the information that is requested. So that is you requesting information from the user. This is you showing the user the information. So for instance, you can gather their name and their age from the input function, and then you want to display that using the print function. Your name is and your age is as you provided. Is this correct or not? Then just say yes, and then it's gonna be the end of it. That is if you're just creating a simple program that gets the user input and display the information, and they confirm whether it's correct or not. If not, they will have to provide the information once more. That's when we'll get to the loops for doing that, but for now, don't worry much about that. Just focus on these building blocks, which are going to build to such a program. It's quite an easy program, but for some it might not be that, especially the new ones. So don't feel disadvantaged that you are new and you don't know nothing, and there are some people who know something. We all start somewhere. You can't just be born knowing things. You learn, right? So let's look at the syntax, right? So you call a print function, that's a keyword, and it's the name of the function to display. Like the input function, you provide the opening parenthesis, and then you provide the value that you want to print. Now this value, you can either use the value itself, or you can just call or use the variable, because that variable has the value, and the value is going to be printed that is stored in that variable. We'll see that when you get to the coding side. And then you have a closing parenthesis, and that is that in terms of the theory. I know that was a bit long, but I was trying to explain as much slow as I can so that I don't get to move too fast. If it was way too fast, or maybe you missed something, and even after this application you couldn't understand, just let me know in the comment section. I will try to help as much as I can. Cool. So now we heading on to the fun part. The coding time is a coding session. So let's apply what we have learned, right? So cool. Here we are at the terminal. So this is my terminal. Popeyes, okay, it is just named by default, and there goes me, my name, right? But mindless about that. This is not really necessary. You don't need that, or you don't need to know that. Cool. So you saw when I explained on how to start a PowerShell online. If you are online, you would want to go there. Either you go there now, or you want to first watch the video, and then after watching the video, you will apply what you learned as a practice, so that you know that you understand the concept we are covering. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my Python PowerShell, right? Since I've already installed Python, if I type Python Python 3, that's the version that I'm using, and then I check the version. I'm using Python 3.11.0 That's the version that I'm using. As I've explained, that I am just interested in the latest technology and I move with times, but not saying that you should move with times either. If you know your way around it, you can just play around with it. If not, don't try it. It's not, I don't know whether I should say it's not safe, but it's not advisable. Let me just use that word. It's not advisable. Cool. So the way you start your shell, you're just going to type Python 3. For Windows, you might have to just type Python. But in this case, I'm just going to type Python 3. And then you have all this information, right? So the first thing you want to do is you don't want to have too much of this as distracting, right? You just want to have a nice, clear working environment where you're just coding freely without any confusing text. So you're going to learn about libraries as time goes on, but there's this library. You just have to type the keyword from, and then you type OS, all in small letters. And the other thing that I want to remind you or give you is we're going to move to the script mode next week. So all keywords are written in small letters. Just be careful about that, right? So it's from, and then OS, and then space. You're going to have another keyword import, right? What you want to import is a function called system, right? And then you just call that function system, and then you provide a value there, and then you just want to clear, and then it's going to clear. So this is way much better to work with than all those words, because now you're starting on a place where it's just whatever that you just coding, not the other text telling you about things you don't know, GCC, all that. You don't really need to know that to get started. You just want to be in a comfortable environment. As they say, you prepare your environment before you do anything. Say for instance, you want to learn or you want to study, right? It's much effective to study in a room that is clean than in a room that is unorganized. You have your clothes there, your trousers there, your bag there. So you want to first organize that. It's the same also in the world of coding. You prepare your coding environment so that you can start afresh. You will see also with the script that you have that. But as time goes on, you will see that there are points in which if you are to go to work, that especially if you are doing software development, I think there is brownfields, or it's mostly brownfields. So you work on a code base that is already written by someone else. Imagine you're given a code with lines, or maybe 2,000 lines, and you have to improve that software and add more functionality, right? So if you don't understand your concepts well, you won't know what each line is doing. So it's better to start with nothing at all, and then you build. As you go on, you build. It will become easy as you move forward. Cool. So what we want to start with now is we want to declare a variable, right? So the first example is going to be declaring a variable which is going to be assigned to a value which is of string data type. So you want the name of the variable, right? As I mentioned, you can either start with an underscore or start with any character, right? So in this case, we're going to start with n, and then we're just going to name this variable name, right? And then what you have is an assignment operator. I almost used equal sign, but I want to avoid using equal sign and use the coding language so that you get familiar with the concepts, because it's going to be used over and over again. Cool. Once you have the assignment operator, now you want to provide the value of a string. Now every string is always encoded in double quotes. So you have the opening double quote and the closing double quote, right? If I say my name is Murex the coder, right? That's the value that is going to be stored in name. You can also provide the same name but using single quotes. Python does allow you to do that. You will understand why when you get to other languages. So if it's a string, you can put whatever text you want inside either a single quote or a double quote, as long as you open the double quote, put whatever text you want to put, and then you close the double quote. It will know that that's a string. The Python interpreter will know that that's a string, and that's how you declare a variable with a string data type. Let's declare a variable with an integer, right? And then integer, then we're going to do float, and then we're going to do boolean, right? We're not yet into the input and output function. We're just still on the declaration part. I think we just want to move the way we've been moving when you're doing the theory. That way it makes it easy, right? So you want age. So your age is 50, maybe. Let's just say that your age is 50, right? So with the integer, you don't have to provide the double quotes. You just provide the number as it is, and then you have yourself your age. If it's a float, say you want let's just call it decimal, and then we say it's 15.99. you just provide it as it is, right? That is the declaration of the integer and float. So this is integer and this is a float. Cool. Now let's move on to the last variable, which is boolean. So let's just say we want to know your marital status, right? Are you married? Yes or no? No, I'm not married, I'm single. So we just put false, right? That's the value. Say 2 years after 2 years down the line, yeah, you got married, so your status get changed to true, right? And then I will talk about what I just did there. Or maybe if I should ask, if I was to display the content stored in this variable, what would it be? Would it be true or would it be false? Would it be true or would it be false? Sorry for the confusion. Would it be true or would it be false? Let me just give you a few seconds to answer that. 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Everybody got it? It's gonna be true. I do hope you got that. Reason being that you started with a variable, right? And then you assign a value to it, which is false. And then you use the same variable, but then this time around you assign a different value. So what you did is you overrode the contents that were stored in that variable before. So whatever value this variable had was replaced by this variable. I do hope you guys follow through, right? So we've defined all these variables, right? So now let's clear our system. Let's clear our environment. I could just press an up arrow to get to the previous commands I've ran, which is one of the good things about shell. I will show you also the tricks in the editing part. Vim, well, if you're interested in Vim, but I don't think I'll go much on Vim, but I will be coding using Vim because Vim, it makes it easy for me to actually explain concepts than IntelliJ, because there will be a lot of popping up, appearing, and then everybody's gonna get confused. So with Vim is quiet. It's just like this terminal. It's quite nice and simple. Cool. So what I want to do is clear the system. Then what we want to do now is we want to use the print function. I know we started discussing about the input function, but I want to start with the, actually let us start with the input function so that we keep the order as it is, right? So it's a name. It's already there, but I want to override it with data from the user input, right? So you do input, and then as I've said, you can prompt the user and ask them maybe what is their name, what is your name, and then you provide a colon and a space. So what's going to happen is your program, when it runs, it's going to display this, what is your name, and your case is going to be there, and you're going to provide the input, and then once you're done, it's going to store that to that variable. Let's go. So what is your name? So my name is Python, and everybody is learning me. Then it's done, right? You've successfully stored this variable or this value to this variable name, but this is stored as a string, and you will see in a moment why I'm saying that, because as I mentioned, input is a function that returns a string. Regardless of what value you provide, it returns a string. And then let's go to age, and then we do the same thing, right? We do the same thing, and then we ask what is your age? Oh, I forgot the question mark on that previous one, but that's cool. So what is your age, right? This is a proper grammar, right? What is your age? And then you have a space, right? And then you have your input. So this was gonna be prompt from the user, right? What is your age? And then you provide maybe I'm 56 years old. That is stored in that variable in memory. Cool. Let's go to decimal, and then we provide the input, and then in that one we just say what is a given decimal. I didn't have a nice question for this one. What is a given decimal? But I tried. Then you have a space, right? And then you're gonna have that, and then you provide 20.99. And then let's provide the status. Say the 2 years is not yet passed and I am Mr. Single Guy. So you provide what is your marital state, or are you married? Yeah, let's just do it. Oh, let's just do it. That I wanted to ask when are you getting married, but it's not gonna be relevant for this one. Are you married? This one it's a yes or no answer, right? It's a yes or no answer. In this case, we will answer either with true or false. So say I am true. Yeah, I got married. I met this young beautiful lady who was decent enough to give me a chance, and I showed her how much I loved her, or how much of a man I am. Cool. This is what you have, right? These are all the variables you've declared, right? You declared all these variables. Right now, what we want to do is we want to check the type of these variables, right? We used only input, right? So let's clear our system. Okay, I will try to type fast for now so that we don't spend too much time here, but obviously you will be able to rewatch the video and do follow along. So it's gonna be proper, it's gonna be nice, it's gonna be easy for you to just rewind, until you get to understand, because the aim is to understand. Cool. So let's say you want to know the type, right? So in shell, you can call the function type, which returns the type of a variable name. So we have the variable, not really the variable name. What am I saying? It returns the type, the data type of a variable. Cool. So if I provide name, I should return a string, because we assigned a string to that variable, right? It's a string because we are using the input, right? So it's a string. So that's the function you use. So if you want to convert maybe an integer to a string, you just use that function, open parenthesis, then the value that you want to convert, and then closing parenthesis. We'll get to that. Cool. So say now I want to know the type of age, and you work there and you're so sure that I provided a number, but what is it going to be? Is it going to be an integer or a string? And then you check, it's a string. How is it that it's string? Because I provided a number. The input function. Now you see the importance of asking the question. You get to answer yourself as you move along, and then these improve your understanding from that theory that, according to theory, an input function always returns a string. and this is how you get to see it in action. Cool. Let's check the other type. So now I want to check the decimal. Oh, not the decimal. There we go. So it's a string, not a float, but a string. Also, if you check the boolean, it's going to be the same. So status, that is a string. So this is a problem now because this is supposed to be a number, and if I was to do a mathematical operation, which we're going to do that in next week, I can't add a string and a number. It's illegal in Python, right? So you want to know how to actually convert to the data type that you want, or ensure that the variable that you have has the correct data type, right? Because Python is not strict in terms of variables. It receives a value and then its a data type is set, but that data type can change. For instance, if you declare name with a string and further declare name with an integer, it's going to change that integer if you are converting the input. So let's talk about this conversion part yet. Cool. So let's clear. So I'm just gonna press an up arrow to scroll to my history. Then what we want to do is we want name, right? So since name is already a string via the input, you don't have to convert, but let's say you wanted to convert that input, right? So it's str. So you use the str, which is a string method, which converts to a string, and then we provide the input, right? Then after providing the input, you ask, what is your name, right? This time around we have it. There we go. And then we press enter, right? Morendwa, that is my name, and then you provide the age, right? So when you provide the age, you want this to be an integer because you can't say that I am 2.5 years old. You're either 12 years old or you're 2 years old, right? So you're going to use a function called int, open parenthesis, and then you provide the new the input function which returns a value, and then you're just going to ask, what is your age? Cool. And then you provide the closing parenthesis. Don't forget to close. And then you have 50, that's your age, right? And then you provide the decimal. After that, so with the decimal, right, it's a float type, so you call the float function and then you provide the input. Once you provide the input, you ask what is a given decimal. I'm just going to repeat that question because I can't really find a proper question for this. What is a given decimal? There we go. And then we close the parenthesis for the input, and then we close the parenthesis for the float. Once you're done, you provide the decimal 12.78, and then you're done. And then we move on to the next step, right? Okay, I know this is way too messy, so we can clear or we can just continue. I think let's just continue in terms of assigning, and then we're going to clear when we get to the print function. So what's left is just the status, right? And then with the status, you want this to be a boolean, so it's going to be bool, and then you provide the function that returns the value from the input, and then you just provide, are you married? Hey, this question because normally our grandmothers will be like, my grandson, when are you getting married? I want to see my grandchildren before I die. You know, those questions. So yeah, it gets to be not that easy to answer. So if I say, when are you getting married, you can't just say yes or no. You have to specify the date, or just say, I don't know, only God knows, you know. So yeah, so this is the status, right? You get in the input, say I say true, right? And then you provide true. Cool. Then we're gonna clear the workspace so that we can enjoy ourselves some peace of mind. Whew. Now you get to breathe. You're like, now all that mess is gone. But all those things that we have are still existing. We just cleared the workspace, but it's like you are organizing your room. I mean, if you're organizing your room, you put the trousers in the trousers, the t-shirts in the t-shirts. Each and every shirt and the trouser that existed in that room is still there, right? Cool. So what we want to do is we want to use the print function. Oh no, we don't want the print function yet. What we want to do is we want to check that really we did successfully convert our data types to the data types that we need. So if I say type and then I say name, I expect it to be a string. And then if I say type and then I say age, I expect it to be an integer, and it is an integer. If I say type and I say decimal, I expect it to be, you got it right, a float. If I say type and I use status, I should get a boolean, right? Now you're sorted. Now you have all your functions and your variables have the correct data types. Let's clear this and conclude this tutorial with the print function. Then we'll talk more next week. So as you see, I have my system which I defined in a wrong manner, so you get these errors. So it's a name error. So even if you import at first and you just started typing system, you will get a name error because it doesn't exist. So this doesn't exist. Which is the other thing about the shell. Don't be afraid of errors. Errors make you a good debugger, because when you get familiar with an error, you know what causes this error, so you know what to look for in the code. But then if it's a long code, you will want to use an aid of a tool, a debugging tool, and there's various tools to use, but we'll talk about that as we move further in these tutorials. So I just have to provide system, then I want to clear. Cool. So once you're done clearing, what you want to do now is you want to display the information, right? It's print, then you have name, right? If I print name, this is what I'm printing, right? That's what it does. So that's what I stored, I'm printing. And then I have age, I'm expecting 50, right? And then I have decimal. What number did we assign it again? No, 12.78. And then I have print, which is status. Oh yes, I said I'm gonna get married. This is what you have. Let's clean our terminal. Pretty much sure you guys do understand what I did there, right? It's a print function, as I've explained, and then it's followed by an open parenthesis, then a variable name or a string. So if I was to clear this and then I say print and then I provide the value, so this is the value that I'm providing as it is, right? It's just gonna print that value. That's it. Either you use the variable that stores that value, either way that variable is gonna just print the value. So you're actually having a value on there inside your print function, right? But the other thing which I want to show you now is when you display information, you remember when I said that you ask the user for the name and the age, and then you display that how your name is and you have this age. You can do that, provide the value, and then you provide what you want. Your name is, and then you provide, you don't really have to provide a space, and then you just press a comma, right? And then the variable name, which is name, and then a comma, and then you provide I press the up arrow. You can just press the down arrow to get back to the statement, because it's not done but it's there on the history command. So what you want to do there is say, and your age is, and then you press comma, and then you provide the age. Then you want to press comma, check the marital status, right? Marital status space, and then you provide, no, I don't want to do this for now, because these are going to be the operators for the future tutorials. Then what you want to provide there is status, and then you just print it out. your name is Murendra and your age is 50, marital status is true. So that's what you do. So you can do this. As you see, we have lots of arguments which we're going to be discussing when we get to the functions, what an argument is and the parameter is. But for now, this is an argument which is just a value. So you provide the value, comma, another value, comma, another value, comma, another value, and so on and so on. But then take note of this, right? Your name is, and that's it. Your name is, and you stop there. By default, when you use comma and then second variable, inside that function it adds a space. So it adds a space, and then you get the variable name, and then you get another value. So it's going to be a space and a value, right? I will show you the other ways of using the print function in the future tutorials. So for now, I think we are done. What we can just do is just do this one last thing. So you have name is equals to, and then you provide a string, right? Provide whatever that you provide, and then you have name. So you can start either with the alphabets from A to Z or start with an underscore. So it's name, and then you provide any variable, right? Or what you do is, now you want to do something illegal. There's no getting away from this illegal, right? Because you have syntax error. You see, in a shell it tells you this is where the error is. So this is pointing to where the error is, that no, that is not supposed to be there. You can't start with a number. Even if I do this and then I provide the $sign, right? This is invalid. I do hope that you guys get the picture of what was happening. So you can just go practice with all these, add some weird characters. Don't be afraid to get the errors. When you get the errors, that means that you're doing something right. Not saying that those not getting errors are not doing something, but most of the people, I'd say, they're playing it safe. I used to play it safe myself, not wanting to get any error, until I realized that you learn through mistakes and errors. That's it for me, guys, and thank you for watching through to the very end, for those who did. And I shall see you next week. Do hit the subscribe button if you do love the video, and if you want more of the contents and never to miss out, do hit the notification bell. If you got any question, drop it under the comment section. If you need anything at all, just either drop it in the comment section or just send me an email. I will check the email. Not so sure when, but I will check my emails before I release the new tutorial, so you will be covered. Other than that, do guys have yourselves a lovely day and happy coding, and the journey begins. Remember, consistency is everything. Time management, obvious, is the number one skill that you really need to really achieve anything that you want to achieve. That's it for me, and I shall see you guys next week.